It's a loving community. It's one where I like to say every seat counts. We're small enough that we can see who is occupying each seat in a classroom, each position on a team, who isn't participating and needs to be invited in a different way so that she feels brave enough to try for the first time. So we are relational. We expect much of our students, and we can customize in relation to where they are in their developmental stage, as well as where they are by virtue of personality and practice. We can customize through advisors, teachers, coaches, dorm parents, and others how we draw kids out and then how we ask them to take a leap. And that all starts with a student trusting the people around her. And once we earn a student's trust, which I believe we do very quickly here, then she's willing to do almost anything we ask. And it's really fun to watch. And then we can reward and applaud one another. And so often, I think I've alluded to this before, the perception of an all girls world at this age is that the girls are mean. Why would I want to be in an environment where girls are mean to each other? Because this is what they see on Instagram, and it's how they're communicating in isolation away from home and school. And to the contrary, when we live together and respect one another and learn about each other in order to understand one another, then we're accountable to one another. And in fact, for the rest of our lives, we lift each other up, we cheer each other on, we pick each other up. And I mean this not only as students, but as adults. And it's incredible to watch. I would say it really does start in our boarding population and then eventually overflows into our entire population, of which about 45% is also day students. And as you can imagine, we do have day students who represent different ethnicities and cultures and languages. And more profoundly, of course, within our boarding community is where we see the most variety of kids. And they have the benefit of time with one another. And so what I would say is that it is natural initially for all of us to look for the familiar, because in that it's very mammalian to look for something that looks and feels like me so I can relate. But this culture is one that is constantly challenging the girls overtly and then facilitating covertly activities that merge girls together so that in small groups they begin to see and hear about difference as well as similarity. And then over time, they build the practice of genuinely being curious about difference and being willing to share their own differences with one another. And certainly as regards domestic and international students, and let's be clear, international students are the minority and they're in a domestic environment. But the practices we establish both habitually as well as programmatically is one that is constantly pushing everyone to understand what do we have in common as a community and what do we bring uniquely that we need to take the time to listen to. And that's a practice that you see happening and unfolding every day, so that by the end of the year, you see pods of kids that don't necessarily look the same as much as you see kids at certain times where people clearly have something in common, because that too is important. And what I would say before I even name those is one of the qualities that schools like ours have the opportunity to take advantage of and should is the unique talents and interests of our own faculty. And while we certainly have the obligation and excitement to offer a standard set of courses that you would expect to see at any fine independent high school or middle school, we additionally take the opportunity to ask our teachers to put courses together that inspire them and allow them to offer electives that as students get older, they can begin to pick and choose from among. So that there's nothing like walking into a classroom where a teacher is bringing her own passion, as of course they do every day in broad ways, but in these very specific ways. So I'll give you a couple of examples. We have this wonderful investment class as part of our capabilities program here, whereas in 10th grade, our students begin to get introduced to how to understand and manipulate money in the stock market. And they are, in fact, given a portfolio with real money of $1,000 apiece in which they begin to invest, with which they begin to invest. And they have it for 3 years and are reporting out on what they learned. They're taking risks, studied risks, calculated risks. And at the end, they are asked to donate half of whatever they made if it came out on the plus side. And then with the other, they can keep that. Now, we've only done this for a couple of years. So I suppose if a student makes $1 million, we may want to renegotiate. But in any case, it's so exciting to empower girls with the understanding of how to use money and how to take advantage of money. Another class I would mention, we've just partnered with Stanford University in their StanX program, where we're doing lifetime research using fruit flies, reporting our findings. And you can only imagine how excited our girls are to partner with our own science team as well as with Stanford, where they're doing original research. We have an equine science class. We have a beautiful riding program here in which 20% of our girls are involved. But any student can take this equine science elective where taught by a former veterinarian who's on our science faculty. And they're using our live horses as their subjects and going across the street and examining the horses and understanding how to care for them from the medical perspective. And then finally, as an all-girls school, I'll mention that we have this incredible biology of women class that takes students through pre-adolescence, girls, all the way through menopause and beyond, aging, and helps them understand the biology of what's happening in our bodies and the physiology of how we react to those things that are happening, which ultimately serves to empower girls in profound ways so that there's no mystery, there's better understanding, and there's no apology or embarrassment so often associated with what goes on with our very complicated bodies. Did I mention that we're designed to have babies? And if you think about that, that's a miracle. It's amazing. And most people don't understand how it all happens and what is happening to our bodies during that gestation period. So anyway, I could go on, but those are some samples of what we do here. For our students, I'll start by saying that there are some annual field trips. Some, for the youngest students, it might just be day trips. For our older students, overnight or camping excursions, or a trip to Montreal where our 8th graders might go and have the chance both to bond and experience something further afield. So we have grade-related trips that are developing in our program. We also have exchanges. There is one to Scotland and one to Australia that we are reigniting. We had been involved in them previous to COVID, and now we are back to engaging with those. We are doing 2 language-based trips this year, and so there is some variety year to year as to what a teacher might offer, but in this case, a group of French students will be going to Quebec City, and a group of Spanish-speaking students will be going to Mexico City. And then finally, we've had a long-time relationship with King's Academy in Jordan. You may or may not know that the King of Jordan attended a boarding school in America, as did some of his family, went back to Jordan and wanted to develop their own boarding school there that was an international destination as well as domestic. And so we have students who will go over there for a semester or an entire year, just as they may send 1 or 2 students here. So within a small school context, these are the kinds of opportunities that await students here at Walker's. I would say this: what a thrill for me to be able to come to you wherever you live in this occasion where you've seen these videos and heard not only from me, but from all of these other admission professionals. We have the best job at any school as far as I'm concerned, because we get to travel to meet you, welcome you to our campus. And our job, it's not about saying yes or no. We always want to say yes if we possibly can. That is our philosophy. We want to get to yes. But in getting there, we're learning about you. And so come prepared to tell us about yourselves. Practice, yes, but do not rehearse. And there's a difference there. Get comfortable with talking about yourself. And so often children are not comfortable doing that, or people who aren't American aren't comfortable with doing that. But get used to saying, answering the question, not just what, but why. And if you think about answering the why every time you're asked a question, say in an interview, then that begins to become a really interesting conversation. And in my world, there's never a wrong answer. So trust yourself and then trust us, both you and your parents, and we can't wait to get started.